reopen the investigation. We'll have a full report tonight at 6. There's a daycare crisis tonight in Warren County. The largest daycare there plans to close its doors. Michelle Parker with that story. And Jeff Greenwood with advice from Minneapolis police as he follows up his reports on civilian review boards. Now this.
Presenting the price of the year on basic cable installation, $19.92. Call your local Heritage office.
Chance of snow in the forecast, anywhere from 1 to 3 inches of snow possible tonight. Stay tuned now for CBS Evening News.
A national movement is launched to set higher standards in American classrooms. Reaction from Tokyo to a long week of Japan bashing in America. And in Minnesota, a nickname nightmare forms a cloud over Super Bowl 26. This is the CBS Evening News. Good evening. I'm Connie Chung, sitting in tonight for Dan Rather. Dramatic changes may be coming in the way our children are educated. A federal panel today announced an aggressive new plan that would set higher standards and ensure that they are met. We get the details from correspondent Wyatt Andrews.
The difference between a pentagon and an octagon.
In Washington, D.C., they begin teaching geometry and algebra in the 7th grade. In Los Angeles, sciences like chemistry aren't required until the 11th grade. Across America, some 15,000 separate school districts make up their own rules about what gets taught and when. But today, a broad cross-section of leading educators declaring a revolution said the time has come to set tough national standards.
We're challenging to reject minimum standards to set high world-class standards.
The standards will be written in 5 core subjects: mathematics, English, history, geography, and science. They will be voluntary, but national tests will also be written, in effect, pressuring local districts to measure up.
Youngsters will know that if they don't reach certain standards, they won't enter college or they won't have a job certificate, same as every other industrial society in the world.
Explicitly saying what students should know and when is being tried now in California, mostly to rave reviews.
It gives teachers the opportunity to know what it is that they're supposed to be teaching.
There are 2 main sources of opposition to national standards. First, from those local school boards that don't want anyone in Washington telling them what's important. And also those school boards from underprivileged communities that fear that the national standards, when set, will be set so high that they will just continue to look bad. But some inner-city school systems welcome the standards, saying they will help equalize unequal schools.
It certainly says to a community, here is what is expected of all youngsters in this country, whether you're in suburban districts or whether you're in an urban district.
The sad news here is that the depth of this crisis helped make this happen. The competing educational factions, which are now behind national standards, may never have agreed on this astonishingly simple idea if the state of education wasn't so bad. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Washington.
In suburban Detroit, could it be another sign of the continuing battle between America and Japan, or car wars? Employees at a Ford assembly plant who don't drive Ford cars are now being forced to park in a special, less convenient lot. More on the American-Japanese feuding from correspondent Bill Whitaker in Tokyo.
When protesters derailed the Sumitomo Transit contract in Los Angeles, when the Japanese company Nintendo appears likely to strike out in its bid for the Seattle Mariners, when Detroit auto workers picket a Toyota dealer, to Americans, it's a natural reaction of outrage to a crude Japanese insult that American workers are lazy and ignorant. But to Japan, it's a frightening sign that relations with its closest ally and trading partner are dangerously unraveling.
A growing number of people are worrying that we're heading to a collision right now.
Today, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the man whose America bashing ignited the firestorm, opened this year's session of Parliament. In his opening address, Prime Minister Miyazawa tried to cool things down. America helped Japan after World War II, he said. Now Japan should help America. But consumers' actions speak louder than politicians' words. You don't own anything made in America?
No.
Why not?
It's expensive. The Japanese car is better quality. than American currency.
This isn't the first time this has happened. Americans and Japanese have been bashing and counter-bashing for years. But this time it seems different. With the Cold War over and the U.S. in the middle of a recession in an election year, Japan fears it is replacing the former Soviet Union as the evil empire.
It would become very difficult to maintain good business relationship. That's why we are a bit sort of worried.
Worried, yes. But even in the face of American anger, Japan presses on with business as usual. And none of this is likely to change soon. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Tokyo.
Democratic presidential candidate Bill Clinton is again denying a report of an extramarital affair. The report is in the Star, the supermarket tabloid. In a paid interview, Jennifer Flowers, an Arkansas state office worker, says she had a 12-year affair with Governor Clinton. Asked about the story when he arrived in Little Rock today, Clinton said it is not true.
I mean, the charges are false. Today she took money to publish a story that she hired a lawyer to say was absolutely defamatory over a year ago. And it's sad. It's sad that this sort of thing could be published in a newspaper like the Star, which says Martians walk on the earth.
Accusations about Clinton having extramarital affairs were first made by a fired state employee 4 years ago. No news organizations have been able to verify any of the allegations. Governor Clinton is in Arkansas tonight to demonstrate his stand on the death penalty, and as Richard Threlkeld reports, Clinton and other Democrats running for president are taking a non-traditional stand this election year.
Tonight in Arkansas, this man, Ricky Ray Rector, is scheduled to die by lethal injection for the murder of a white policeman 10 years ago. The man who could grant him clemency is the governor, Bill Clinton, who's also running for president. But Bill Clinton's in favor of capital punishment.
I support it. I have enforced it twice against 2 people who were multiple murderers.
His rival, Jerry Brown, opposes it, as does Tom Harkin.
I've always been opposed to it because I've never seen credible evidence that it actually is a deterrent.
But the other 2 candidates, Bob Kerrey and Paul Tsongas, agree with Clinton. With polls now showing voters overwhelmingly in favor of the death penalty, many Democrats now seem just as committed to it as George Bush was when he used the issue against Michael Dukakis 4 years ago.
He opposed capital punishment for drug kingpins, and he fought tooth and nail to keep that outrageous furlough program that lets murderers, rapists, and drug dealers out of jail.
Clinton, in particular, has now become a target for death penalty opponents. Rector, they say, specially merits mercy because he underwent a lobotomy to repair a gunshot wound and is mentally impaired. And there are those who believe the governor is playing politics with Rector's life.
It is clearly a wrong thing to do, and any candidate who would preside over that execution, knowing that he's putting politics ahead of what's right, has got to raise character issues.
In fact, though, Clinton has signed 67 death warrants during 11 years as governor. In those cases and this, he thinks the death penalty is what is right.
As the courts have ruled, there is no basis for setting aside the penalty that was imposed by the jury. I don't think there is any basis for executive clemency.
Barring any new legal action or evidence, Clinton says he will allow the execution of Ricky Ray Rector to proceed. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, New York.
Still ahead on the CBS Evening News, a medical emergency in the Soviet republics. And Eye on America. Tonight, new hope for Americans who suffer from mental illness.
What do you smell?
I smell nothing. It's almost like you're working to breathe.
For fast relief, try Dristan 12-hour nasal spray. Now smell.
Orange, yeah. Dristan nasal spray. Worked very fast.
Dristan, the face of relief today.
I get that right?
Perfect. Back in 5, Stephanie.
When you're trying to eat right, days like this are a disaster. Is this it?
Stephanie Powers talks about Kellogg's Nutri-Grain.
The only time I really control what I eat is at breakfast, and the whole grain in Kellogg's Nutri-Grain gives me a natural start. No sugar added, no preservatives, nothing fake. No matter what I eat later, at breakfast I call the shots.
Naturally good. Nutri-Grain, the natural place to start.
Did you hear?
Kraft Touch of Butter spread comes in sticks, so your cooking and baking can have that genuine buttery taste. Kraft Touch of Butter sticks are made with creamy butter. A touch of real butter makes a real difference.
Australia's Olympic Committee today flatly ruled out a boycott by the Australian basketball team at the Summer Games. The team doctor had recommended a boycott of games in which Magic Johnson plays. The doctor said there was a small but real chance Johnson could infect other players with the AIDS virus. A leading Australian AIDS expert accused the team doctor today of preaching fear and hysteria. Russian and Ukrainian officials are welcoming the food and other aid announced at an international conference in Washington. While the former Soviet republics can use the food, what they need most is medical equipment, as Anthony Mason reports.
One glimpse behind the gates of Moscow's largest medicine factory will tell you everything about the state of Soviet health care. In a beat-up old building that used to house a brewery, 30-year-old machines crank out pills for the Commonwealth. In spite of a critical shortage of medicine in the country, production has been declining steadily. And the plant manager will tell you he doesn't even have enough material to package what he can produce. The government always told us everything was for the people, he says. Now we know they spent everything on the military. You can see the results. A new U.S. airlift of medical supplies next month will help, but the Russian government says it still needs billions of dollars more in medical aid. Western observers say those claims are not exaggerated.
And the problem of health care here is not a shortage of medical supplies and equipment. It is a total lack of them. They simply don't have anything.
So in city hospitals, doctors have to monitor every drop of scarce intravenous solution during an operation and carefully ration their drug supplies. The patients aren't dying from this, says Dr. Nikolai Ucheshov, but they're recovering more slowly than they should. The flaws, the doctors say, are in the system, the same system that built huge hospital complexes without underground passageways. So patients have to be wheeled outside to travel between departments. With all of its commitments to socialism, the Soviet state devoted only a paltry 3% of its budget to health care. Said one doctor, the government decided it was easier just to look the other way. Russian doctors who on average earn less than $5 a month are threatening to strike tomorrow. But with the Yeltsin government chronically short of cash, the prognosis for the system's recovery is bleak. The medicine factory is struggling to punch out enough pills, but as the manager put it, this place was better taken care of when it was a brewery. Anthony Mason, CBS News, Moscow.
Stay with us now for more CBS News, including the children of war who nobody wants.
Hurry into Sears Brand Central for America's biggest appliance and electronics sale. Virtually all your favorite brands are on sale right now with great low credit options and Sears nationwide service. No wonder more people buy more top-name brands from the store they trust. You can count on this giant 21 cubic foot Kenmore refrigerator with adjustable shelves, now only $579.99 at Sears Brand Central.
I can't believe this report is due this afternoon. What is that?
Kraft-free Italian.
You carry Italian dressing in your purse.
Hey, I love Italian.
Obviously.
You want some?
No, thank you. No, it's too much fat.
Oh, no, this is Kraft-free. See, fat-free, cholesterol-free.
This sounds great.
Just try it.
Kraft-free Italian non-fat dressing. Fat-free, cholesterol-free, but feel free to love the taste.
Wonder if they make ranch. But they do.
Ladies, now you can look years younger in minutes by having lines, wrinkles, and puffiness seem to disappear with sudden change. In just minutes, see the years smoothed away. Not a miracle, not trick photography, it's sudden change. You'll look years younger in minutes.
Now's the time for Centrum Silver, because you're over 50 and you're out there swinging. Centrum Silver, a complete vitamin formula for your changing nutritional needs. Centrum Silver, it's a great time to be silver.
Governor and Mrs. Bill Clinton talk about their life, their marriage, and his campaign for the presidency. A 60 Minutes exclusive, Sunday after the Super Bowl.
A year after the Gulf War, another tale of tragedy is emerging from Kuwait. This one concerns babies born to Kuwaiti women who were raped by Iraqi soldiers. As Peter Van Sant reports, the future for those children is as bleak as the desert.
This is a baby without parents and without a country. She is a product of rape. Her father, an unknown Iraqi soldier. Her family consists of other war babies in this Kuwait City orphanage, conceived during Iraq's reign of terror. All have been abandoned by their mothers. This baby was found in a garbage dumpster. In Kuwait, where anything Iraqi is despised, these babies are less than human.
This child is an Iraqi child. So we are not talking about a child, a human beings. We are talking about an Iraqi, small Iraqi child, okay, represent a mistake, represent a social stigma.
During the Iraqi occupation, the government claims more than 1,000 Kuwaiti women were raped. Nearly half of those victims became pregnant. Some left the country for abortions. Some committed suicide. Victims of Iraqi torture and rape are getting counseling, but their emotional wounds may never heal. In this Islamic country, virginity is sacred. Some of these children have been adopted by foreigners, but many are alone. Their cribs are gilded jail cells in a country where no one wants them. Peter Van Sant, CBS News, London.
A judge in El Salvador today gave 2 Army officers the maximum sentence for their roles in the massacre of 6 Jesuit priests 3 years ago. Each received 30 years in prison. One, a colonel, is the highest-ranking officer ever convicted and sentenced in a Salvadoran human rights case. Now from around the world, more CBS News. In South Bend, Indiana, a bus crash in a heavy snowstorm killed 2 members of the Notre Dame women's swimming team. 34 others were injured. The bus was bringing the team home from a meet. Also in South Bend, fire did heavy damage to a metal recycling plant, and the fumes forced hundreds of people living nearby to evacuate. In outer space, the Discovery astronauts are experimenting with crystals. Without gravity, they can be grown bigger and with greater purity for a wide range of uses, from astronomy to medicine. And that mummified man found in the Alps last year may be as much as 9 centuries older than previously thought. New tests date him from the Stone Age, 5,500 years ago. First tests placed him in the later Bronze Age.
I have just the thing for that cold.
Most kids think that medicine has to taste bad. But there's one cold medicine that relieves both kids and colds. Grape-flavored Dimetap Elixir. Recommended most by pediatricians and pharmacists. After all, a cold medicine can't work if you can't get it down.
You like Dimetap?
Dimetap Elixir and Dimetap DM for colds with coughs. Works as good as it tastes.
Grandma's got a date. What's a date?
Closeness. You might hesitate if you wore a diaper. So Johnson & Johnson created Serenity Guards. Bladder control protection so advanced, it holds as much as something 5 times its size and stays dry, locking liquid in. And now there's a new Serenity Guard, Super Plus, with even more super absorbance. So if you've been looking for extra protection, give yourself hugs for discovering new Serenity Super Plus.
What's your stupid dog up to now, Charlie Brown? You mean you never heard of Sherlock Hound, alias the MetLife representative? When a customer has a question, the MetLife representative knows where to find the right answers. And he'll get back to them fast? Elementary, my dear Lucy. Get Met. It pays.
Saturday, Wake Forest battles #1 Duke. Then St. John's faces Syracuse. Sunday, 6th-ranked Ohio State battles Seton Hall in Super Bowl weekend on CBS.
If someone you knew was plagued by schizophrenia, what would you give for a chance to bring him back from madness? Would you pay any price? Well, there is a remarkable drug, a drug of choice, for people who have run out of choices. CBS News health correspondent Edie Magnus reports tonight's Eye on America.
3 pills 3 times a day. For Kevin Buckberger, who is schizophrenic, they are a lifeline to reality, to a world that was lost for years.
I was driven, really. Driven by madness.
Kevin was one of those people you see in the streets and in the parks, talking to voices they hear in their heads, tortured by hallucinations and paranoia.
We don't know what's up there.
It's believed 2 million Americans, including 1/3 of the nation's homeless, suffer from schizophrenia.
I was always denying it. I'm not mentally ill. They're nuts. I'm not schizophrenic. You know, but now I can tell myself, yeah, I really was hearing voices.
Now the voices are gone, a triumph Kevin attributes to the drug clozapine, sold under the name Clozaril. For the 1/3 of schizophrenics who don't respond to other antipsychotic medications, it can produce remarkable improvements.
We called it the Rip Van Winkle syndrome when one patient described how she felt like she had awakened from a 10-year sleep.
Much like the story of Awakenings, which chronicled the sudden recovery of patients with symptoms of Parkinson's disease, some schizophrenics on clozapine can resume a meaningful life.
The difference, fortunately, here from the Awakening story is that we've seen no evidence that the benefits disappear over time.
But only as long as patients take their pills. Schizophrenia, a disorder caused by chemical imbalances in the brain, is not curable, just controllable. Still, that's meant quite a lot for Kevin.
Not being a loner anymore, trying to do things with other people, going to basketball games, baseball games, picnicking, movies, all kinds of things that I never would have done without Clozaril.
But for every awakening, there are thousands of schizophrenics who can't get clozapine, primarily because of cost. $5,000 to $10,000 a year for life for the drug and a blood monitoring program to prevent a lethal side effect which occurs in 1% to 2% of patients. And since most schizophrenics are indigent, the cost falls to state mental health systems, which end up rationing the drug.
Now, this is the first time in a while you've kind of lived on your own?
The first time in 2 years.
Does it feel good?
Very good.
Daphne Moss is one of the lucky few for whom Medicaid will foot the clozapine bills. She's fought hard for her independence through depression, a suicide attempt, and years of estrangement from her family.
And I was so afraid that she would end up homeless on the street, and that was the thing that would drive me.
And they said, we're going to try clozapine. It's very, very risky. It doesn't work with everybody, but we'll try it. I got on the clozapine, and it worked.
Clozapine targets 2 areas of the brain, areas that control behavior and personality, and areas where in some schizophrenics there is evidence of low brain metabolism.
Clozapine enhances brain metabolism. This is the patient before clozapine and the patient after clozapine.
But no matter how swift or complete their recovery, parts of their lives are irretrievable.
I'm 33 years old, and the best thing I can do is vacuum a rug and mop a floor when I should have a bachelor's or master's in something.
The answer is 26.
At 29, Daphne is trying to rebuild a teaching career, taking it slow.
You have to get to know yourself all over again.
When I look at what she's been through and where she's been and look at her now, it's like a miracle. It really is like a miracle.
Competitors are racing to develop drugs similar to clozapine without the dangerous side effects. But reports of how well it works only frustrate those who know how many schizophrenics might be helped if only they could get it. Edie Magnus, CBS News, Cleveland.
Coming up next, a question for Super Bowl Sunday. Is this a racist symbol?
This was me with dull gray hair. I looked washed up. Then I found a whole new way to make my gray look great.
Introducing a new kind of shampoo from the makers of Just for Men Hair Care called Great Looking Gray. Great Looking Gray does more than clean and condition. It gets rid of the dullness, even yellow buildup, brings out the real silver.
What a difference it makes.
New Great Looking Gray shampoo. And for stubborn yellow, new Great Looking Gray anti-yellow treatment.
With the introduction of the 1992 LeSabre, Buick's reputation continues to grow. And it pleases us that people are taking notice. Because LeSabre isn't just another fine motor car, it's a Buick. And Buick is rapidly becoming an enormous symbol for quality in America.
Nice try, Ginny. What's wrong? Oh, you have arthritis? Me too. It's hard to grip your racket, isn't it? Here, my doctor told me about this, Motrin IB. It's the same medicine as in prescription Motrin in non-prescription strength. It's great for minor arthritis pain. And one Motrin IB works as well as 2 regular aspirin. Try it. You'll have the advantage next set.
Motrin IB, the relief of Motrin in non-prescription strength.
This is ordinary bulk fiber. It's full of grit. This is new Sunrise Smooth Metamucil. The grit is gone because it's triple ground for smoothness. This is ordinary fiber. The grit is definitely not gone. This is new Sunrise Smooth Metamucil, the best mixing, smoothest tasting natural fiber you can buy. The grit is gone. New Sunrise Smooth Metamucil. For regularity, nothing works better, and the grit is gone.
It's almost here. Super Bowl 26, Buffalo and Washington battling Sunday in Minneapolis in the climax of the football season. But for Native Americans, a battle of another kind is being waged on the sidelines. James Hattori reports.
Native Americans protested in front of the NFL's hotel in Minneapolis this afternoon. They've targeted the Washington Redskins, a team name many Indians find offensive, and have turned Super Bowl weekend into a political football. Redskins owner Jack Kent Cook insists his team honors Native Americans. Indians say the team's notoriety helps perpetuate a slur.
With a can of beer in one hand and a tomahawk in the other, I don't know how they can honor Indian people in that fashion. And I know that we wouldn't dare to call the Washington Redskins the Washington Negroes, are equivalent to the Redskins, and call them the Washington Niggers.
The NFL says that view is a minority view and plans no changes.
To some fans, maybe the name has a connotation that has to do with qualities such as courage and bravery and strength.
Native Americans have seized the Super Bowl spotlight to correct what for many is a political wrong. It's an issue which has hit home in an area with the largest urban Indian population. Just ask students at the Heart of the Earth School in Minneapolis.
To this day, there's still people that still think we live in teepees.
It makes me feel angry at times, and it makes me feel sorry for those people because they don't really know how we really are.
The most well-known Indian at the University of Illinois at Champaign is the school's mascot, Chief Illini Weck, played by a white student who says his act is more than a gymnastics routine.
Are they aware of the care and the preparation that goes into making this a dignified symbol, as dignified as it possibly can be?
Among the thousands of schools with Indian names or mascots, 30 have changed in recent years. Professional sports teams continue to resist. The Atlanta Braves have the tomahawk chop. The Kansas City Chiefs paint themselves in red face.
We don't longer want to be mascots for America's fun and games.
The Indians know it won't change soon, but change is something which they are used to waiting for. James Hattori, CBS News, Minneapolis.
And that's our news. Dan Rather will be back on Monday. I'm Connie Chung in New York. I'll see you again Monday morning on CBS This Morning. Thank you for joining us, and for all of us at CBS News, good night.
Mike Tyson. He fought his way to the top. He had it all. Now he's charged with rape. Monday he starts the fight of his life. Complete details on the CBS Evening News. This is CBS.
Up next on the TVA News Live at 6, Democrats reopen that ethics investigation into Joe Welch.
This following threats by Republicans to bring new charges against Joe Welch if the ethics investigation wasn't continued. I'm Jill Lingwall. I'll have a live report from the State House.
Also tonight, the governor threatens to fire another 3,500 state workers. We'll have details of his 1993 state budget. Also tonight, working parents distraught over the closing of a daycare center. Michelle Parker with details.
Steve, with snow in the forecast, matter of fact, some of it already falling, and Heidi with more on the Super Bowl. TV8 News is coming up next.
For a limited time, the Dodge Sales Drive drives on. So hurry to your Dodge dealer now and own the ultra sporty Dodge Stealth for under 18 grand. Caravan under 14 grand after cash back and get air at no extra charge. Still up to $2,000 cash back on select Dodge trucks and package savings up to $26.83. Hurry, time is running out.
Presenting the price of the year on basic cable installation, $19.92. Call your local Heritage office.
You're invited once again to join us at Mr. B for our twice-a-year clearance sale.
You'll discover savings throughout the store during this special clearance event.
Now at Mr. B, you'll save on suits and sport coats by Hard Chapter Marks, Corbin, Austin Reed, and Southampton.
You'll find a complete selection of women's suits, blazers, blouses, and casual clothing.
And as always, every purchase is tailored to fit by one of Mr. B's 6 full-time tailors.
So visit us at Mr. B during our twice-a-year clearance sale,
where you'll get great prices and service to match.
Thank you for watching KCCI, TV8 in Des Moines. And now from TV8, Iowa's news leader, Paul Rhodes, Kevin Cooney, Connie McBurney with weather, and Heidi Soliday sports. This is TV8 News, live at 6.
Put it this way, I don't think anybody ought to be able to blackmail the Iowa Senate.
And tonight, the Ethics Committee bowed to the intense pressure from the public and other senators by reopening the ethics probe into Joe Welch. Good evening. Thanks for being with us. I'm Sue Mason. Paul has the night off.
Former Senate President Joe Welch was a part-time salesman for the beleaguered Iowa Trust Fund, and tonight comes an about-face as the Senate Ethics Committee decides to hear more questions about Welch next week. TV8's Jill Lingwall standing by live at the State House with this breaking story.
Well, Kevin, the crux of this issue seems to be that members of the public and members of the Senate are afraid that, in essence, Senator Joe Welch blackmailed the Senate Ethics Committee by threatening to bring charges against 14 other senators unless charges against him were dropped. Senators say that they're happy about the reopening of the investigation, and they hope that now the whole issue will be brought out into the open.
I'm asking the Ethics Committee to reopen the investigation.
Senator George Kinley's call has been heard. Senate Ethics Committee Chair Jean Lloyd Jones says her committee will reopen its probe into Senator Joe Welch's ties to the failed Iowa Trust Fund. In her announcement today, Senator Lloyd Jones said, "We've decided that we're going to reconvene and let everybody ask all the questions they want." The Ethics Committee announcement comes after Senate Republicans today threatened to bring new ethics charges against Welch if the investigation wasn't continued.
They will have to be specific, whether they're over travel vouchers or they're over conduct in front of meetings, or whether they involved other things. There are some potential specific charges that can be filed.
Senators aren't the only ones who voiced criticism of the decision to end the Ethics Committee investigation. The people we spoke to around Des Moines expressed varied opinions on whether or not they think Joe Welch is guilty of any wrongdoing. But a vast majority of them say they wish the Senate Ethics Committee would have continued their investigation.
I don't think they should drop it. I think they should continue the investigation.
The fact that there doesn't seem to be a lot of information right now out in the public causes some concern.
And that's exactly the public sentiment that Senate leaders say prompted the Senate Ethics Committee into action today. Kevin?
Well, now, Jill, I understand the chairman of the Democratic Party here in Iowa, John Roerick, was also at today's meeting. What's the connection there?
That's right. John Roerick may have had some concern in being at the meeting because before all of this happened, Senator Jean Lloyd Jones was considered the top Democratic contender to face Senator Chuck Grassley in the U.S. Senate election. And now there's some speculation that that may have all changed. And Senate leaders also told me today that even after all of this is over, and if Senator Joe Welch is exonerated of all charges, they fear that this whole event may have tarnished the image of the Senate.
Jill Lingwall up on Capitol Hill, thanks a lot.
Governor Branstad says another 3,500 state workers will be fired if the Supreme Court says he must give pay raises to union workers. That tops the headlines from next year's state budget released today by the governor's staff. The 1993 budget would be $3.34 billion, but includes no money to pay the raises. The Iowa Supreme Court is speeding up its review of the pay raise dispute. A decision is likely by April 15th. Budget Director Gretchen Tegler says even before the loss of another 3,500 employees, state services are hurting.
And yes, they are pressed very close to the point right now of being able to fulfill statutory responsibilities given what's occurred already. This budget for fiscal 93 is a difficult one for agencies already, even without considering reductions in force.
School aid to elementary and secondary districts would go up by $94 million, but that's millions less than districts were counting on. School officials are predicting layoffs if the plan is approved. The governor's budget also raises taxes, another 10 cents a pack on cigarettes, plus an expansion of the sales tax to include garbage collection and consultant services. Iowa lawmakers tonight say the budget will stir two confrontations over education spending and how to pay the raises to state workers if they're mandated by the Supreme Court.
A 27-year-old postal worker was killed this afternoon when his postal truck collided with a car in West Des Moines. It happened at 13th and Grand, West Des Moines. West Des Moines police say that Larry Todd Jordan of St. Charles was thrown from the postal truck. Jordan died of massive head and neck injuries. Authorities say that Jordan's vehicle was southbound on 13th when it was struck by a car traveling east on Grand. The driver of the car taken to a Des Moines hospital. The full extent of injuries not yet known. And no decision yet on whether to file charges in the deadly accident last November that killed 3 members of a Louisiana family. Members of the John Sitton family died along I-80 when their vehicle was struck head-on by a car driven by Gene Kuntz of Des Moines. Authorities suspected that Kuntz may have been suffering from a reaction to a medical condition. Today, an assistant county attorney was riding along with a state patrol car down the same path that Kuntz's car took, through the median and nearly 1 mile in the wrong direction on I-80. The interstate was closed during the test. Prosecutors will review the videotape of today's test to help decide whether charges should be filed.
The Des Moines City Council Monday appears ready to approve public hearings in connection with the Larry Milton case. But some are pushing for more, a civilian review board to investigate complaints of police brutality. Tonight, Des Moines has received advice on both sides of that issue from Minneapolis, which now has such a review board. TV8's Jeff Greenwood reports from Minneapolis last night at 6 and 10. He joins us now with his follow-up. Jeff?
Well, Sue, the most controversial part of the call for change is the civilian review system. Many Des Moines black residents want it. Most police officers oppose it. That's how it splits in Minneapolis, and key players there are offering their advice to hear us in Des Moines.
In Minneapolis, they've already gone through the same phases of controversy and conciliation that Des Moines is now in the midst of. There, it ultimately led to a civilian review board. Some key players in that process have advice for us in Des Moines. A Minneapolis Civilian Police Review Authority investigator says the system is doing almost everything it was designed to, and the same could happen here.
I would give Des Moines the same advice I would give anyone else. Anyone contemplating civilian oversight, I personally believe it's an excellent way to go. It restores community faith in the police department.
The Minneapolis NAACP says so far the system appears to work. But Minneapolis police officers tell a different story. They liken the review system to an occasional lynch mob that deprives cops of their due process. The police union plans to challenge any case it thinks was mishandled. The department doesn't believe such a system here would change some people's perceptions of police.
I think it applies to this and the situation possibly in Des Moines. If the community has a perception that the police are hiding things through their internal affairs process, or whatever the issue, it is almost impossible to change that perception.
A majority of the Des Moines City Council and Police Department don't want a review board. Some minority community leaders demand it. But it now appears there is a majority support for public police conduct hearings. That vote is set for early next week.
Now, the city's minority community strongly advocates the hearings, and the Des Moines Police Department officially supports them. It all comes to a head Monday night at City Hall.
Okay, thank you. Jeff Greenwood reporting for us.
Well, Steve Carlin is in for Connie, watching the snow not only head our way, but arrive. Steve?
That's right, snow watching. That's what I'm doing. The big question on everybody's minds right now, how much are we going to get? Well, let's take a look at it. The National Weather Service says we should get anywhere from 1 to 3 inches here in central Iowa. Off in northeastern and east central Iowa, they're looking at 2 to 4 inches, thus a snow advisory for tonight. And down to the south and out west, about an inch to 2 inches. And it's going to blow after we get the snow, and I'll tell you all about that in just a bit.
All right, thanks a lot, Steve. Coming up next on the TV8 News Live at 6, Michelle Parker on a daycare crisis in Warren County.
Later on, we'll find out why Iowa State's football coach has a special interest in the Super Bowl. Stay with us.
This is it. Your last chance to get a brand new Ford Ranger for only $9,085. That's a great price on America's favorite sport truck. Loaded with a sliding rear window, AM/FM stereo, chrome rear step bumper, and more. But hurry, this special offer is only for a limited time, and this may be your last chance to get a fully equipped Ford Ranger for only $9,085. See your local Ford dealer now, because this is your last chance.
I think people have the misconception that farmers just go out and spray and spray and spray. Well, we don't. So every time you go out there and spray something, that takes away from the bottom line. And then the other thing that they fail to realize is we live here. And we don't want to pollute any groundwater, as chances are we're going to drink it before the city people will.
No matter your lifestyle, driving habits, or budget, Noble Ford Mercury has a truck for you.
I need a truck that'll take me anywhere I need to go on the farm.